Okay, welcome to Talk of the Town. You know who I am. My name is Karen Bukes, and I thank you so much for tuning in. Let's start the show right away and say hello to our underwriters. David and Kevin Gallerani, I love them both, owners of Cape Auto Body and Service, located on Samoset and Sandwich Street, right here in Plymouth, where service and quality are the best. One Stop Painting, Jeff Cohen, owner, great service, great people. Another great underwriter, Wrestling with Computers with Wrestling Brewster, and Wrestling has a show right here on PAC TV, and you can tune in on that. He's quite a guru with the computers. But tonight I would like to start with a little special announcement from someone I really respect and like very, very much. He is here to tell us about the Foundation's achievements and the fun event that will be coming up shortly. Please welcome from the Plymouth Education Foundation, Bob Betters.
Thank you, Karen, and I want to thank you and Ken Bukes for allowing me the opportunity to be here tonight. That's great, thank you.
Our pleasure, Bob. Bob, tell us what's coming up, but you know, even before that, the Plymouth Education Foundation, when was it started and who was on the board?
Well, it was started in 2008. We waited until we received our nonprofit certification from the IRS before we actually started fundraising. So our fundraising activities really didn't start until 2010. So we've been very active in the community since 2010.
Right. And you have a lot of wonderful people on that board that work very hard.
We do. The board currently consists of Barry Haskell, who obviously has a connection to the schools.
Yes.
Lauren Backen, who's a local CPA, who does all of our tax work. Nicole Manfredi, who used to be on the school committee and is a school teacher. Anthony Shenna, who obviously had connection to the town in terms of Board of Selectmen and on the Finance Committee. Mark Garrett, Barry Young, Paul Vickery of Rockland Trust Company, Warren Phillips, and Nancy Ceccarelli, I think, rounds out the board. I hope I didn't forget anybody.
I don't think you did, Bob. And you're on the board?
I'm on the board as well. I'm also the president of the Education Foundation.
Tell us what it does.
Well, we were organized to supplement educational opportunities primarily for the Plymouth Public Schools. We also can do other grants to other community members, such as the library. We did a grant to the library for their adult literacy program when we started out. But predominantly, we're looking to provide funding for innovative, unique educational opportunities for Plymouth students, Plymouth educators, not funded by tax-based revenues. That's basically what we're designed to do.
And anyone can donate, Bob?
Anyone can donate. We'll take donations from anyone. Gratefully appreciate it.
So someone in their will could leave the foundation some monies to give to the schools, and you could handle that for them. And
yes.
I think it's a wonderful service. Now, tell us why you're here.
Well, I'm here tonight to offer an invitation to your viewers to consider coming to the Plymouth Education Foundation's 6th annual Valentine Gala. The Valentine Gala for the Education Foundation is our primary fundraising activity. This year it's scheduled for February 6th, which is a Saturday night, at the Pavilion at Pine Hills, starting at 6 p.m. So we're hoping to get attendance, good attendance from people in the community. It's been well attended for the past 5 years, and we're hoping that it's going to be sold out again this year.
Yes, and the food is fantastic, and you have raffles that with fabulous gifts to raffle on, and all that money goes to the foundation, and it's a fun time. Kenny and I attended one year, and it was wonderful, and I really respect your board very much.
It is a good time. I mean, there's live entertainment.
Yeah.
Mark is the band. They've been the band, pretty much for all of the galas. So it's live entertainment, it's dinner, it's dancing, and a live and a silent auction. And as you say, we have some great auction items, particularly the live auction items are, I think, this year are spectacular.
I think one year Anthony Shenna bought them all, but I could be wrong about that.
He's bought quite a few.
Well, Bob, I wish you the best, and we will run this promo for you, this announcement, every week up until February 6th.
That would be great. I mean, on your screen now is our website.
Yeah.
You can go onto the website and actually purchase tickets on the website. The phone number is 508-747-8212. That will go into voicemail, but someone from the foundation will get back to you. Tickets are $75 per person, or if someone wants to buy a table of 8, it's $550. So
Right.
we encourage people in the community not only to donate, but also to attend and enjoy a nice night.
Absolutely, Bob, and I wish you the best, and I want you to let us know how it went afterwards. Thank you so much, Bob.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. It really is a great endeavor by this group, this foundation, and they're doing it for Plymouth. And you would have a wonderful time if you attended. Everybody's there, so go. You'll enjoy yourself. Now, on to tonight's wonderful guest, who we happen to respect to our core. He is known for his tenacity, sincerity, hard work, and his love, his undying love for this town and its people. Please welcome Plymouth Chair of the Selectmen, Ken Tavares.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you here, Ken.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come on this program, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, well, you have done such a wonderful job. If I'm not there, nobody needs to see me, but I watch. And I'm agreeing with you all the time, and I appreciate, and as does thousands of others, for the watchful eye you keep on the finances, how our town is, what direction it's going, and we so appreciate it. It might be fun to ask you, how long have you served this town? And I don't mean long in a negative way, I mean that in a positive way.
Well, I started in 1971. I went on the Finance Committee, was elected to the board a few years later, but since '71 I have been either on the Finance Committee, Selectman, a town meeting member, or served on various committees. So it's been a real great run as far as I'm concerned, and of being able to be active in the town and to work with really countless people over the years.
Yes, and you know this town inside and out, and always have the best interest at heart for it. Now, the first thing I want to say is, gee, thanks. Thanks so much for helping Kenny and Steve Lyden get those air conditioners to everyone. Well,
both of them did an extraordinary job, and they brought it to the attention of the town, and I think that the thanks really goes to them. For taking hold of a situation that really shouldn't have been, and turning it around. And it was fun to accompany them a couple of times and see the smiles on people's faces as they were, equipped in their residences with new air conditioners, and knowing that even the last ones that were put in, they had some very hot days thereafter, and people were able to be in comfort, and it shouldn't have been any other way. And so our hats, and the Board of Selectmen said it a number of times, goes off to Ken and Steve.
Well, without your support, your support helps so much, and you were a good cheerleader for them both, and you were so kind, and the people loved seeing you when you walked in. We heard, oh, it was wonderful to see Ken, and for him to come, and you did that more than a couple of times.
Well, as I said, it was certainly eye-opening for me and anyone that participated in that program. You know, we have, you know, great housing. Certainly there are things that can be done to make them better. But I enjoyed the opportunity of meeting people, which, you know, we don't always get to do, and especially getting into someone's home, you know. So,
right, that was
but hats off
unique.
to Ken and Steve.
And to you, sir. Now, let's talk a little bit about Entergy. And that's a huge subject.
Yes.
Last evening, Jessica Casey came before the Selectman with they had been meeting since when, Ken?
Well, the announcement came on October 13th, and within a few hours of the announcement, as chairman, I put together a task force, and our first meeting was the following day, October 14th, and we have been meeting periodically since then. The purpose of the task force is to advise the Board of Selectmen, to do the investigative work that needs to be done. A whole new set of opportunities and challenges are now before us. Once they announce that there is going to be the closing, we're not sure of the date yet, then it triggered a lot of other questions that had to be answered. And what I'm excited about, and I said it last night, I see opportunity here. I don't think it's all bleak. And we're going to have the chance to kind of reinvent Plymouth a little bit, you know, looking to bring in additional business, to really ramp up tourism now. And it isn't just the spent fuel rods, the fact that we have a closed nuclear plant here. There are going to be other challenges and opportunities that the town is going to be facing, and we've listed them out over the last couple of months. And last night I was very pleased the Board of Selectmen endorsed 3 proposals that we put forward to them, and we actually this morning rolled up our sleeves again. We're getting to work. We've given assignments to the Nuclear Matters Committee. There's going to be total engagement in the community. What I think is important is that we are all on the same page, and I say all, that's locally, the Board of Selectmen, who has a great deal of responsibility as to the direction that the town goes in this matter. Our state delegation has been phenomenal, and I can't say enough about our federal delegation. Extremely helpful.
I'm glad you said that last night, because people have to hear it. It's a team effort. You know, this is where we live, this is where they live, this is where their hearts are. So you're all pitching in together. Yes, and the most important thing that we all agreed upon on October 14th was that we have to be on the same page. And it would be very difficult if we had a state delegation running off in one direction, the feds doing something else, and the selectmen going somewhere else. No. We can't do that. We learned early on that our goals were the same, and I think that's going to be the success that we're going to have. We were committed to putting down a very strong foundation as to how we're going to tackle this problem. And we weren't going to rush it. You know, we have times we're going to do this right. We know that there are going to be some setbacks. We know that there are going to be some things that we don't like, but we also have made it very well known on all levels of government that we want a seat at the table. Absolutely, and I'm so relieved. I have been relieved since this whole thing started that you said that. You said that. We are going to get a seat at that table. Well, that was brought home to us when we went down to Washington. And I can't thank Congressman Keating enough for setting up a meeting within 2 weeks of the announcement and knowing that we needed to meet with our senators and our congressmen. And as I've said before to the board, we walked in to Congressman Keating's office, and before the senators arrived, Congressman Welsh from Vermont was there, and this is a state that has experience, and he gave us some great advice as to how to proceed, and basically said you need to be present, and you need to make your community known
because in the end, we're the ones that are still the host community. And
right.
I think our friends in Vermont did some things very, very well. As a matter of fact, next week, a few of us are taking a day trip up to Vermont to meet with local officials and also their decommissioning group, and then hopefully within a month we're going to take our local delegation, state delegation up there so that we can learn, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel and everything that's going on, but so much, and this is what we're trying to explain, so much of what's going to happen is in the hands of people in Washington, D.C.
I know.
And we can certainly make our wishes known, but there are many, many decisions that are going to be made. And our federal delegation was very clear to us that they now see strength in numbers. We're not the only community that has a plant that's going to be going through shutdown and decommissioning. And I've been so pleased with our senators as they've been gathering support down there, and I think that's going to make a big, big difference. And of course, on the state level, there have been countless meetings that have already taken place because, as I said earlier, it isn't just the fact that we have nuclear waste here. We have to retool ourselves. To make up for lost revenue and income that we've become very accustomed to since 1972.
Right, exactly. And the state delegation has been paramount in this. I would say Vinnie DiMacedo and his staff. It must be a wonderful resource, Ken, to have that available. But does Congress really want to go through this time, with the next town, There has to be a plan, and there has to be something that, gives, is this the right word, recompense it, something for the host communities.
Well, that remains to be seen as to how that's going to be done. We know that there have been millions and millions of dollars collected that are in funds, for taking care of spent fuel. We certainly have seen what I call the tragedy of Yucca Mountain, to have spent all that money as a depository for nuclear waste, and it hasn't seen any yet, to this day. I think that I think even Washington is in a learning stage right now. They quite don't have the playbook in hand, and the NRC is asking for comments from communities, which we were given permission by the Board of Selectmen last night to draft 2 letters, for the board to sign on behalf of the town, where we're starting to say these are some of the things that absolutely need to be considered. These are things that the NRC needs to do. So in some ways, the giant is waking up.
I certainly hope so. And Europe, you can look toward Europe. Of course, back when, nobody thought about it. But what Europe does is, and I'm not a privatized person, but for the rods, they have private companies take that out of the host community. And they didn't leave it up to the legislature or the people to do that. It was a private company, and it's all taken care of. I don't know where they bring it. I feel bad for where. It's just a terrible dilemma.
Well, and in Europe, they're still building plants.
Yes.
I was on a call last week on behalf of the 400th Committee, talking to my counterpart in Plymouth, England, and we were talking about some of the things that are happening in Plymouth, and I talked about the nuclear plant, and he said, not too far from us, there's an enormous one being built. And some of the things that we wrestle with here, they're not doing right now. That's not happening over there. But the federal government made a commitment. And that's what we have to hold them to. It can't be our tax dollars that are going to this. It isn't the companies alone that have to pay for, for everything, and I know some people will debate on that. But the fact is, the federal government said, we will take this from your community. You have the plant there, we'll take it.
Right.
And my parting words to the federal delegation were, I said, I can only sum this up in a few words, and that is a promise broken.
Yeah.
And that needs to be fixed, because long after the plant closes and the waste is here, whether it's in dry cask or it's still in the pools until it's moved, we're going to have, there are going to be local responsibilities for that. You still have to have an emergency preparedness plan. We certainly are not going to give up on dry cask storage. I know there are some people that have said, and one of my board members said last night, I don't want this stuff here at all. Well, I don't either.
Nobody does.
I want to see it gone, but
right.
We're going to have to deal with the reality of how the federal government, responds to it. This whole process could take 60 years. I hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep, we're going to be organized, we're going to be present as local officials, and I think it's going to make a difference. It wasn't that many years ago we tried to put a coalition of communities together. Belinda Brewster tried it. I had told her prior to her coming on, when she served her term, that some of us had tried doing it a number of years before, and there wasn't any interest.
Nope.
And I thought, are we the only community in the United States that cares about it? But we're not. And I think now, as things are getting closer, people are saying, we do have to come up with a plan. We have to know, what we're doing, because there are so many moving parts to this. I mean, the company has interests, the communities have interests, the federal government has to do things. So it's going to take a while to sort all this out. It's not going to happen in a year or 2 years.
No.
And at the same time, as we deal with that, I wanted to see how we change some of the ways we do business in Plymouth. And one of the best things, and it's so natural to us, is that we have a business that we haven't quite tapped fully yet, and that's tourism. And I think this is going to give us a great opportunity. We heard last night how many dollars with a 22% increase in the hotel motel tax came in. How we have a wonderful fund set up where we take a certain percentage of that, put it back into tourism, which creates things. I think that I've always said, Disneyland manufactures all this stuff. It's here naturally. Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Everything around us, our ponds, our harbor, our historical buildings. This is natural, and people know about Plymouth. Now we need to promote that. Yeah. We need to get them in here and spend a few days. I always love to go by some of the hotels and motels in town, especially on holiday weekends or during the summer, and say, wow, there's not a space in that lot.
I know, that's wonderful.
That's what we need to do in this town.
Well, if we do nothing, nothing will happen. But you've always been pro and active and wanting to solve problems. You're a good problem solver. And I realize that it's going to take time. People do have to realize that. But Lynn Barrett, she's wonderful. And she underestimates, she goes, I'm going to come in conservative as to what that meals tax is going to bring in. Please.
Well, Lynn doesn't. We're very fortunate. We have a number of department heads and employees in the town that are extremely loyal and do a great job, day to day. Lynn, as our chief financial person, I have a great deal of respect for, because she has a no-nonsense approach to figures. She stays on the conservative side, which is what you want in government. You don't want to be overly optimistic, saying we're going to increase revenues by this, and this. It doesn't happen. And
but when it does, it's all the better.
Yeah, and I think she has done a good job along with the town manager and advising town meeting, who makes the ultimate decisions in the end, to saying that this is what we need to do. But right now we're in difficult times. I mean, people are finding it hard to meet the tax bills, and I'm hearing more and more and more of that. Actually, in the past few months than I think I ever have serving in office, and we have to be very, very aware of that.
People aren't just complaining. The regular old complaint. It's legitimate. And they're worried with everything that's going on in the world, never mind.
Right.
And then we know the Entergy's closing. We had the pipe we'll get into that burst. All-day kindergarten. And we want to do these things and our services, but, you say it. You've said it for years, Ken. What do? You have to run a town of this size, and sooner or later you start to say no.
Yeah.
And it kills you to say it. Yeah. I know that.
Well, if you felt that the requests were unreasonable and they weren't well thought out, no is easy.
Yeah.
You send them back to the drawing board. But I know, especially when you're talking to a fire chief, a police chief, DPW on the town side, that they need, additional personnel or equipment, programs. I understand it, but this year, for the first time in dealing with local budgets, I said to the town manager and to my board, I said, I have to tell you how I'm approaching it this year. And I'm approaching it from no.
Yeah, from no. I remember when you said that.
You have to get me to a yes.
Yeah.
And in some cases that's happened, and in others it hasn't. But I think that until we can sort out exactly what our revenue stream is, that we need to be careful. And it's no different than what people are doing in their own households when they're going to say, well, I'd love to put the sunroom on this year.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't, because I'm not so sure that I've got a job. I'm not so sure there are going to be some other expenses that are coming in, or maybe something's happened that just kind of set us back a little bit. And the town has to look at it that way. We've been I think a great community in providing services. I mean, there are lots of things that we haven't done yet. I mean, when they came in, when the Department of Public Works director came in with his road program and said, I need over $100 million, to improve roads. I don't doubt that, but I gulped and I said,
I know.
We can't do that.
I know.
We
it's
absolutely
sad
can't
because
do that.
We should do it, but we can't do it.
No, you can't.
And, I get it. I do. I had a conversation with JB. I did. He goes, I know you get it. I said, of course I get it. But it's a matter of, we have to be more cautious now. Especially, when do you think Entergy will make that announcement?
Well, they have to make the decision soon, because if they have to let the grid know what they're doing, and that would require refueling. So I'm guessing that maybe sometime this spring we'll hear, but that's a guess.
That's a guess.
That's a guess.
Yeah.
They've said, in the next couple of years. I think it's going to be sooner than later. Yeah. Again, but that's a guess.
I know it's a guess. Now, this is a question I haven't asked anybody, and I have no idea if it's even doable. Can part of that plant be rented out?
Well, there are restrictions, and I don't know all of them, because you have nuclear waste stored there.
Yeah.
But what I do know, and I think it's encouraging, is that we've already heard, and we don't own the property, Entergy does, but as a community, we've heard from people that have said, we're kind of interested in the property for XYZ, and I think that again, working with the plant, there are valuable transmission lines that are on the property. I think other things can be done. And part of what the task force is doing, going back to the task force, is that we've opened up dialogue, just recently with the company in talking. I mean, we were in pilot negotiations, but those went on hold. And we want to talk, to the company and see what we can jointly do together. The most important thing that I think we can do as a task force and as a community is that, you're not dealing with what some would like to refer to as the enemy. That's not the case.
You don't go from
do
that.
I approve of everything that's been done? Absolutely not.
I know.
But we all have interests to protect, and I think working together, we can actually, and the task force feels this way, that we can help one another. And that's an opportunity that we can't afford to, let go and let others decide that for us. I think we can be at the forefront.
Well, and I thank you for that. Aside from that, there, the hundreds of people that work at the plant that live here.
Yes.
What do they do?
Well, as you know, we commissioned the study from UMass. We got the study back.
That was interesting.
And it is. It's a great report. The folks that did it are going to be a resource for us, and helping us because they've gathered information from all over the country. Yes. There are figures that show that a certain percentage go elsewhere. They go to other plants.
But are they going to close? I mean, this is a whole industry.
Well, but not every plant is closing. So some people will go somewhere else and stay within the industry or something related to it. Some will retire. Some will, which is something also we're talking about from the task force, is that we're going to be reaching out to ways to re-educate a force. But you're talking about very well-educated people.
They are very well-educated,
and in a number, over 500 jobs there.
Yeah.
And we have to be very mindful of that, because you take out 500 jobs. And they start, over a period of time, they go elsewhere. That means that people aren't going to the local restaurants. They're not buying gas, or other services that they need.
They might move.
Well, yeah, and a certain percentage of them will
move.
So, and then you have homes that need to be resold. And again, I think that Plymouth has so much to offer, and that's going to be the key to it. One of the communities that we looked at, had 95% of their budget came from the plant.
Oh my goodness!
In Plymouth, thank goodness, it's only about 5%.
Yeah.
It's only about 5%. But we know that's going to impact not only the Plymouth economy but the regional economy. The state has been listening. I'm sure that there are going to be some other things, and we're trying to do a lot of things on our own. I mean, kind of like self-help programs. Give us a little bit of money to start something, seed money, and then we can make something grow. But Plymouth, with all of the other assets that it has, will survive this, and we will come out of this stronger. And we're going to argue amongst ourselves for a while, and we're not all going to agree initially on the path that's going to be taken, but in the end, I think we're going to be okay. You
have a wonderful story, and I've heard it a number of times, and it's an uplifting story, and you say, we're going to be okay. Remember Cordage.
Yeah.
Now, that was a case of everybody worked at Cordage.
Well, and a good part of the community did. And those that didn't work at Cordage were involved in other mills in town that were starting to see a change, take place. But I remember, because many of the members of my family worked at the Cordage Company, and when the company announced that it was closing down and moving the rest of its operations to Canada, we didn't know what was going to become of ourselves.
That's right.
But we had a phenomenal group of business people. They got together, bought the land for the industrial park, and they set out to change the course. And we're going to wind up doing that again.
I know you are.
And I mean, as a community, this is going to take a total community effort, but we're going to do it. And we are actually better poised to do that today than we were when the Cottage closed.
Of course.
We are a well-organized town. We have, you know, we'll fight amongst each other. So I think for some people it's recreation. But we have people that are in great positions to help change that. So I'm optimistic that we'll wind up even better than what happened with Cottage.
I believe you, because I see Plymouth people are survivors.
Well, we've been here since
1620,
and I often think of that, especially at this time of the year.
How they did it.
When you go down to the waterfront and you look out at that harbor, and you know, like an evening like tonight, and it's so cold, and you're thinking, why? How did they do it? But they did it. They did it, and you know, we can too. It's a different set of challenges, but we've got to work together, and I think that's kind of the tone that the Board of Selectmen is trying to set, you know, with the town, with other town departments, and saying that you know, maybe we're all going to have to hold back a little bit and see if you know, we can survive and do without for a while, and then let this dust settle. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, we have a major sewer challenge right now. We're not looking for great increases in aid from the state, and certainly not from the federal government. And we've got to keep the you know, quote unquote, the lights on. And
of course.
You know,
and you can't let that go. That has to be fixed. It's probably rotted from, the whole thing is probably rotted.
Well, we don't know, and I had a conversation with JB today, and we're talking about the sewer break, and it was absolutely so interesting that when Melissa called and said, I believe it was the 19th or the 20th of December, I should remember the date, and she said, we have a break, and I thought, dear God, what else are you going to throw our way? But we've done quite a bit of you know, work. JB's done a great job heading this up. We've had major consultants coming in, and
it was 24/7.
Yeah, well, it was, and it was extremely expensive. He's you know, not going to say anything. JB's not going to say anything right now because he doesn't get all the information.
That's right.
We know that where the pipe is in the high areas, that the gases could have gone off in a couple of other areas and have deteriorated the pipe. We've got a lot more information to put together, but today was, I would have to say, was probably the most optimistic I've seen him since this all started.
I have a question. Now, that went from the jail all along, didn't it? Was that part of the, went into the jail, prison?
Well, I believe they're connected to it, but what it is we actually collect the sewerage, pump it up to the station, and then bring it back down. And ironically, over 15 years ago, a number of us in the community were not pleased with the design of the plant.
I heard that.
And we said, that, well, at that time we were very concerned, and still are, that, you know, with the Eel River.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
The plant was close to the Eel River, and if something happened, we could contaminate it. Well, I think, and again, all the facts aren't in
No,
yet,
then it's not.
but we built a plant, and were advised to build a plant for a large capacity. That capacity was never met.
Right.
And it's one of the things that always has irritated me, that we built a plant much bigger than what I thought needed to be. And there were a lot of other people that thought that at the time. So, you know, what's happened is when, and Dave Malaguti has been an absolute phenomenal asset on, is representing the board on the discussion, because he understands the mechanical parts of it. I'll get about 5 minutes of it, and then I look at Dave and say, is that true?
You know, he's great.
Yeah, he's done, you know, a good job. So I think we kind of know where the problems are. Now we're trying to figure out how do you solve them long term, and how do you make sure this doesn't happen again? You know, we've looked at things so far, and I'm not telling any tales out of school that I shouldn't be right now, but we've looked at design. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations has already expired. But you know, we have to look at every part of why did this happen? Because, as you know, we have a company that runs the plant. It's not run by the town of Plymouth.
Right.
You know, we pay and hire a company to run it. I'm hoping that we'll get the quick fix, because I certainly don't want to say, after finally getting Samoset Street
please don't tell me.
To say that we have to tear up more roads in the center of town. I mean, I think people will take vacations from Plymouth that live here, because the last 2 summers have been hellacious.
But it wasn't the town doing that. It was the state. And a lot of people thought they were getting mad at the town. And it was the state, and you had nothing to do with that. It, you know, I had to listen to those complaints, and I say, it's not the town.
But nonetheless, it's in the town. We've done a lot of infrastructure on old, you know, especially the summer before last. We did a lot of work making necessary repairs. And as an old community, we do have aging infrastructure, and we've been trying to keep up with that.
I remember David talking about that years ago, and he was really concerned about it. And he would talk about the pipes under the street, and he goes, I don't even want to think about it, you know. So, but you know, there's something dear to your heart and dear to a lot of people's heart I want you to talk about, and that's 2020. And I know you're on that committee, and I'm grateful for that. It's come a long way, baby. And tell us what's happening.
Well, we're entering what I have said, you know, to the board of directors of the 400th celebration, that this is the pivotal year. A great deal of good planning has has been put into place. Our executive director, her staff have done an outstanding job. The programs are in place. Now we have to raise the money, and we're looking to you know, to go to private companies on the outside. We are excited. I got actually word today, just before I came here, that the governor, it looks like, will have the state commission appointed by April 1st.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Which is major, because we need that in place. We are working very hard with Congressman Keating to get a federal commission in place. And I think this is the year that the excitement's going to build. It was nice to see the number plates come out.
Oh, yes.
and finally on cars. That, you know, that took a long time to get the initial 1,500.
But it happened.
It happened. And we are calling this a commemoration.
Oh, okay.
And what you're going to hear so much of this in the next couple of years is, our country was founded in December of 1620 in Plymouth, Massachusetts. There's no doubt about it. The Mayflower Compact, signed in Provincetown Harbor, has certainly been referred to as the basis for the Constitution and how we govern ourselves. We have something in this community that no other community in the country has. And what is so interesting about this is the people in Europe that the Pilgrims descended from are extremely excited about it.
That's wonderful.
And I think that it's building. As I said, I had a video cam with my counterpart in Plymouth, England, and it's amazing how much money Parliament has given already, you know, to the folks in England in various tourist groups, because they see this as an opportunity. We do too. And that's why when I kind of think, well, we're going to get out of some of these things, I think of, yes, we can, because we've got to look to make tourism almost a year-round business in the town of Plymouth.
I agree.
And the events that are planned to showcase Plymouth, and that's, are going to be international. And this is the year that we're really out looking for private dollars to do it. The town has been very generous. You know, each year at town meeting, the state has put money in, and we're looking for, you know, more from the Commonwealth. And people that are listening to the story say, you know, there's nothing like this. And we are going to be the first community. I mean, Jamestown, I always said, you know what? Yeah, they had a 400-year celebration.
I wasn't interested in that.
Well, they didn't survive.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some other things they did that we're starting to find out about, but they didn't survive. But when we celebrate in 2020, there are a lot of other communities that are coming right after us in New England for their 400th anniversary. And we're going to, every time one of those anniversaries takes place, they're all going to refer back to Plymouth and, you know, and the founding of the country. So great opportunity. You know, there's a lot of work being done. And a number of people working on programs in different areas. The museums are coming together.
So helpful.
We're very fortunate that we have Plymouth Plantation, the Pilgrim Hall, the antiquarian houses, the other smaller ones that are in town, and we're finding that we're getting a great report card from visitors that are coming to Plymouth. And we haven't tapped our full potential yet. That's what's going to be exciting.
No, we haven't. You know what I've noticed, Ken, is, you know, over the years, we've been here 41 years. So you go by the center of town, and you go by the museum, Pilgrim Hall, and you go by the other museum. And there are people actually going up the steps and coming out.
Yeah.
For years, that didn't happen. You would sporadic. Yep. But now there seems to be a constant pace of people doing that. And I'm sure the Chamber, too, has a lot to do with this, their advertising and all the time, and Destination Plymouth.
Well, Destination Plymouth, the Chamber, you know, I think we are all, you know, working together. And you know, what's going to be so exciting about this is we're all immigrants.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to joke with Peter Gomes, you know, years ago, and I said, Peter, why is you as a black man and me as a white Portuguese Italian, why are we so interested in the Pilgrim story?
I know.
And we used to talk about it. Well, it's because we're all immigrants. We all have part of that story, and part of what we want to do with the 400th anniversary, it isn't just a band of pilgrims, you know, saints and strangers that came together.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
It is it's the story of all of us.
The story of all of us.
And I think that's going to be the fun part of the 400th anniversary. We're going to celebrate, you know, what's made this country great. They came over, they survived, they were, I mean, it's so interesting when you take our story of Plymouth, and, you know, I've always referred to us as the old colony. Boston's the new colony. Yeah. And they kind of took some of the limelight from us, but no one can take the fact that so much started here. And that's the basis of this commemoration. And at the same time, for the first time in commemorations that we've had, we're going to get, I'm very, very confident we're going to get the Native American story right, because it hasn't been told from a Native American perspective. We have Native Americans working with us, and we're going to tell the story. And what I love about it is, as we talk to our counterparts in Europe, they're very interested in that part of the story. That
part of the story.
Yep.
Yes, you know, we think we know, but I don't think we know.
No, we don't.
No.
We don't.
And, you know, it was years before I found out, you know, that the war's here, and you're going to have to help me. Bloody, he went to the brook and he washed himself, and I think it was Duxbury, our governor there.
See, where's Jim Baker when we need him?
Yeah, I know. And I hear the story, but I really want to hear the story.
Well, and
the real story.
I think we're going to, because the people that we have been working with that represent, you know, their direct descendants of the Native American population are very anxious to, you know, to tell the story, and they've been hurt, you know, and stifled to a certain degree by past commemorations, but that's not happening. Our first exhibit that we've done is a Native American exhibit. It's is phenomenal. It's been at the library, and it's going to be a moving exhibit.
That's right.
And it's being put together in installments, but it's a great story.
When is that going to launch? I know it's going around the country.
Well, there's a larger exhibit that will be going around the country that we're in the planning stages, drawing it up. We're actually now looking for a sponsor, you know, for the larger exhibit. There have been actually a couple of locations already booked for it, and I believe it's the Ford Presidential Library is looking to showcase it. But we're going to be hopefully getting this out in the next couple of years, so that before 2020, you know, we're going to be able to create that interest. You know, we are working with people in England. We're sure that someone from the royal family will be here. You know,
wouldn't that be amazing?
I would be extremely disappointed if, before we end the commemoration year, that we didn't have a visit from the President of the United States.
Yes.
And you know, that will be exciting, but we have an opportunity that we can't afford to lose.
No, you must push this forward, and you have. I mean, my goodness, you know, those plates should be looked at as it happened. It happened. Dear God, if that could happen, it all can happen.
It took a while, but again, there are a lot of good people, you know, working on this, and people that are proud in Plymouth. I mean, you know, you're starting to see the plates everywhere, and it's a great revenue stream. You
know, I can't be away from Plymouth long, and it's terrible. It's, you know, you think, oh, you're going to be on vacation, and you get there, and it's going on 2 weeks, and you know you're there a month, and you're saying to yourself, I want to go home. Well,
and you hear that a lot, and you hear it from people that are coming here saying how fortunate you are to live in this area, you know, with all of our natural resources and the quality of life. I mean, there is so much going on in Plymouth right now that we can celebrate. We have a great school system.
Yes, we do.
The arts have absolutely bloomed in Plymouth.
Absolutely, they have.
We have phenomenal sporting teams on all levels, you know, from the schools up to the adult teams. You know,
the spirit is alive.
It's all here, and I think that it is important. You never appreciate what you have until you get out and you get away from it, and you experience going, you know, somewhere else where you can actually bring something back that's good, you know, for your community. And that's what we need to do. I mean, we can't be so provincial that we don't get out of our own town and can't sometimes get out of our own way. I mean, we need to open up our minds.
You need.
Yeah, and I see that happening all the time in Plymouth now. You know, with the population is changing.
They move from Plymouth to Plymouth.
Well,
no other place I know does that.
Yeah.
People move from Plymouth to Plymouth.
I know what you're saying. I know.
Lord, it's a phenomenon. Yeah. I don't want to leave, they say. You know,
Well, and that's what brings us back even to the whole tax situation, that we've got to work very, very hard at keeping people in this community that want to stay in this community, that built this community. It's the hardest thing that we have to face right now, and I know we're up to the task. This board that I sit on, I think, is very, very aware of what's going on around, and very anxious to solve it. You know, we need to work with every other elected board in the town, planning board, school committee. You know, we've got to have a rapport with town meeting. All
on the same page. Do you believe we have 2 minutes? I'm looking at the clock. Don't I have 4 minutes?
3 minutes.
This flew by, and we didn't get to anything else, but I think that talking about the things that we did talk was so paramount.
Well, thank you.
You're a good representative. We're lucky to have you.
Well, I'm lucky to be here in this town, and you know, we're only here for a certain period of time, and it to me, as I look back to 1971, I can't believe how much has changed. But if you can still get excited about it, it's worth it, and I think that's what keeps a lot of us going, is that, and it doesn't matter what your age is, that there are exciting things going on in Plymouth. I love talking to you know, new families that are moving in, and or have
Red Brook,
and how excited they are.
Yeah.
Or talking to people, as you mentioned at the beginning of the program, when we went to into the elderly housing units, and how much they love their town.
They do.
You know, so it's a good combo.
I just think that the spirit is alive and well in Plymouth. People's soul, their spirit, they're survivors, and it's not just merely surviving. They want to accomplish. They're very successful in how they think. You know, just for an example, town meeting, they respect their offices and selectmen and department heads. They ask their questions, and yes, but you are respected.
Well, I think the key to that is that none of us that stand up before town meeting, doesn't matter what position we're in, can afford to not tell the truth.
Right.
And we don't have to, you know, I've walked out in town meetings sometimes and said, wow, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. As long as you tell the truth and the decision is made. And that's what we do.
The credibility.
Yep.
And you have it, sir. I so admire you. I admire
that's kind
you.
Of you. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed tonight, because I hope you learned a lot, and he's very accessible, so pick up the phone. But next week we're going to have Chief Michael Botteri and a cast of thousands. I don't know who's coming, but Chief Botteri will be here. See you in 7.